So to me, white culture is industrialism, cultivation, intelligence, cleanliness, order, generosity, and so much more. Check out my ethnic background. Don't forget some things don't show up in the test results. Good and evil exist in all cultures.
I'm glad you're watching. Today's video is about white culture, and this is a very trending video and very recent on TikTok right now. As I was scrolling, I realized there's so many people reacting to this, and I also realized there's so many people believe that white people don't have culture. Is that true, or what do you think about it? So here we'll be looking at it. We'll be diving into this and also see what people reacted towards what she said white culture it is. So give me a like, subscribe, share, also leave a thought in the comment section. Let's grow this community. Thank you so much. Observe the community guideline kindly. Thank you.
On today's edition with Lady Bedazzled Hannah, I will be answering your question: what is white culture?
Okay, Hannah, I don't know if I asked that question, but let's go.
Use that umbrellas the many diversities within us white skin-toned people. And I think the same can be said of other ethnicities, because with brown culture, red culture...
Alright, I'm just gonna stop you right there. I know all us brown people look the same, but we're all very different. Take India, where my parents are from. There are scores of languages. And within those languages even, there's different cultural and religious communities. And while I will admit people who have brown skin tone will call ourselves brown, I'd be stunned if anybody calls themselves yellow. Which makes me think maybe you shouldn't also call anybody yellow. And there's lots of ethnicities who are East Asian. That you don't know that is really your failing. But this video was about white culture, so let's go back to that.
It can get really complicated because we get into all the factors of nationalities,
Sure does.
countries, ethnicities, cultures, and races.
Alright, so you can tell that there are different nationalities in whiteness. Good job. There are plenty of differences between traditional communities from people with white skin.
Ethnicities, cultures, and races, but not one person is just one background.
Actually, I am, but that's not what you're saying, right? You're saying white Americans are many things. Okay, so I will say that I happen to grow up in a part of America where white Americans often were all Hungarian, all Czech, or maybe half Italian and half Irish. And I love this guy who made this joke about Americans going to Ireland.
Called When an American Spends 4 Hours Telling You How Irish They Are.
So there are actually plenty of white Americans who are tied to their roots, maybe to excess. If you're from that original country, you might feel a little pressed. But there are white Americans, not you apparently, but who do have cultural roots. But keep going.
So to me, white culture is industrialism, cultivation, intelligence, cleanliness, order.
So she started kind of right. Industrialization really did take hold and become global because of European Americans. And European. Now, after that, once she says industrialization, she says things like cleanliness and civility and all that kind of stuff. And what she means is what she perceives as cleanliness, what she perceives as civility. And I would argue that while industrialization started in Western countries, so Europe, America, Canada, that the thing she's calling white culture is actually capitalism. And that's something that has gone beyond race. I would be hard-pressed to believe that she sees Mexico as a European society. It's a very industrialized society. Not to mention many people are ethnically European and probably have the same Germanic stock that she does. What she's trying to do is justify a sort of white supremacy, where she has flattened both whiteness and everybody's else's race and conflated everything else to make herself feel good. But she ends like this, so she knows what she's doing.
Don't forget some things don't show up in the test results. Good and evil exists in all cultures.
And so does stupid.
Everyone's always talking about y'all don't have culture. I find that very problematic.
I do too. A lot of people have responded to this video, but I think I can still add something that people haven't really said. The problem is how we frame culture as white or black in America. That doesn't exist. There are no hard borders on culture. Let me explain. What is the whitest cultural American music? Probably country. And if you know anything about music, you might know that Celtic music has a lot in common with American country music. Which makes sense. Early Scottish and Irish immigrants typically settled in the south or poorer regions of the colonies, and they brought their music with them. And if we look at the instruments that these settlers used, we would find one difference between the Scottish and the Irish and their American counterparts: the banjo. That is because the banjo is an African instrument, one aspect of African culture not erased by slavery. You see, we can't have white American culture without black Americans, and we can't have black American culture without white Americans. But we do all have culture.
Think about that. Let's move on to another person who reacted to the video. White people don't have culture. So that is something that is so much repeated. People believe that white people don't have a culture. If you're white and you're watching this, what your culture is according to you?
White culture is white supremacy.
Incorrect. Now, you could argue that's a subsect of white culture, like a subculture. You can make that argument. But to say that just outright like that is categorically false. And if you're white and you're watching this, stop letting people like this make you feel bad about something you never did. And you know what's crazy? The first people in the world to abolish slavery were actually white. And you know where slavery is still going on? Africa. So many black people live in this little bubble of black people and black history, and they don't really have any perspective of the outside world and how things actually were and currently are. So as a result, you get people saying stuff like this. And to the individual that she responded to on that comment, we welcome you over here. Come over here, come hang out. You'll probably like it better.
So to me, white culture is industrialism, cultivation, intelligence, cleanliness, order, generosity, and so much more.
I'm not sure where this creator gets their information from, but there is no such thing as a universal white culture. If we're talking specifically about European culture, there are 50 countries within the European continent, and all of those 50 countries shares different culture, history, language, and ethnicity. And to claim that white culture is everything that is good in this world is you enforcing the structure of white supremacy, because you are. A lot of you love to come on this app and act like before Europeans colonized indigenous communities in different parts of the world, they were living under a rock. Forgetting that a lot of those things, such as industrialization, cleanliness, Europeans learned from indigenous people. It was not the other way around. These type of rhetorics are so harmful and just perpetuates a narrative that is pretty much false and inaccurate.
Every group has culture. White Americans have culture too. Matter of fact, they have a lot of cultures.
The whole white people don't have culture is such a America specific ongoing joke, because if you step foot outside of America, that's just not a thing. Take Ireland, for example. The Irish have an unbelievably deep and rich culture, and I'm talking music, art, folklore, literature, languages, and traditional attire and holidays that they observe. Very much cultured white people. Similarly, a lot of other predominantly white countries around the world have their own sets of traditions that they follow and their own culture. Now, the United States of America, as we know it today, is a relatively young country compared to European countries. And yet, if you were to ask, what African American culture is, we could tell you that. We can talk about music and dance and literature and art and fashion and hairstyles. All those things are very prevalent in Black culture. I'm generally trying to find out what constitutes white culture in America. I think it's also worthy of noting that when asked where you're from, oftentimes the response is I'm Italian American or German American, Irish American, so on and so forth. And I like to consider myself a global citizen, but I feel when you have a sense of nationality, it kind of adds a little bit of meaning and a sense of belonging, especially in a community. And I know a lot of Americans do feel this sense of community here, no doubt about that. And just anywhere around the world, if you take your pride of where you're from too far, shit can hit the fan. But race relations are really intense in America. So if you were caught saying I'm so proud of being American, you probably will get looked at sideways. So I'm not really sure if white Americans have this sense of pride for their culture and traditions being from America.
Something from what she has just said. Let's listen. Thank you. Leave your thoughts kindly in the comment section. I believe so far you're enjoying the video.
White American culture is a complex and dynamic topic that is often misunderstood. Many people believe that it's just American culture, but that's not the case. The United States is home to a diverse array of cultures. To suggest that the white American culture is simply American is to say that it's more American than Native American and African American cultures, and that's just not right. And while there certainly are aspects of the white American culture that are shared amongst others, in order to understand America, you really do have to understand the white American culture. Now let's explore some of the key aspects of the white American culture. It's primarily British in nature. White Americans do not necessarily observe the traditions and customs of their European ancestors. Rather, their heritage begins with the colonization of what is today the United States. White Americans view the founding fathers of the United States as they would their own ancestors. White Americans hold a civic religion that's linked to this country's identity and history. The values
America's culture is so rich and deep, and I'm sick of people pretending like we have no culture. Just thinking of like sports, we've got American football and baseball and softball, volleyball, skateboarding, snowboarding, ultimate frisbee, basketball. Bodybuilding is a primarily American thing. You can't really make a living out of it anywhere. Like the strongman challenge, that's all American. And yeah, as I said, skateboarding, skate culture is basically American. Food, we've got plenty of food. We got burgers, apple pies, French fries, hot dogs, pizza. We've got some delicious stuff like Chicago deep dish. We have all these different kinds of food within American food. American Chinese, Cajun, New Mexican, Tex-Mex, soul food. That's all American. Philly cheesesteak, mac and cheese, buffalo wing, barbecue ribs, Thanksgiving turkeys. So iconic. Onion rings, pancakes and waffles. Some things that you would really think aren't American, like hard-shell tacos and spaghetti and meatballs, are American inventions created by American immigrants. S'mores, the peanut butter jelly sandwich, the BLT, Coke, Pepsi, the big soda brands, they're all American. Holidays are a very important part of American culture. 4th of July, Independence Day is so iconic. Thanksgiving, it's an American invention. Christmas, not American, but it has been heavily Americanized. If you even look at Japanese Christmases, one of the things you'll see is KFC for Christmas. We have had such an impact on Christmas throughout the world. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, that's also another very important holiday that basically only we have. And we've got so many iconic American people throughout all of history, like Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., George Washington, Elvis, Oprah, Walt Disney, Einstein. Americans are so impactful. People love bringing music when talking about culture. Pop, blues, jazz, country, bluegrass, rock and roll, R&B, hip-hop, soul, gospel, disco, and surf. American styles of music. And we've got some very amazing singers throughout the year. Michael Jackson, Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, Prince, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, America is still incredibly impactful in the music industry. It's so crazy to say that America doesn't have a culture when the culture is very different within America. California, Texas, New York, Hawaii, Alaska, anywhere in the Midwest, there's such a significant difference from every single one of those places. So how can you have no culture but so many at the same time? Surfers, cowboys, typical American businessmen, skaters, hippies, those are all groups that we all have a very good idea of what they are. Religiously speaking, in 2020, 64% of America was Christian. Christianity has had a very big impact on the American culture as a whole. The American flag, I'd argue, is one of the most recognizable flags in all the world. And the bald eagle, America has culture.
I appreciate that you stopped by. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video, don't forget to share it, and also leave your thoughts. Goodbye for now.